Hey, how's it going, guys? It's your boy Meteor. Today, I bring you an that's right, educational video. Yeah, we're gonna increase our IQ today. We're gonna conduct some science, and we're gonna review, the mathematical genius behind an idea I've just had, or I had a few months ago, to shine light on the secrets behind Decisive Strike and its usage rate. Now, if you guys are looking to improve at killer and you're looking, I really want to get past rank 10. I want to push into the purple ranks, and then I want to get to the red ranks, and then I want to get to rank 1. My goal is to improve as a killer, and maybe you're a rank 1 killer, and you get wrecked by Decisive Strike, and how likely is it that the survivor that I'm picking up that's just been unhooked has Decisive Strike? How likely is it? Well, that's a question that's been haunting me for a very long time, because guys, I've been playing this game for about 3 years now, and Decisive Strike was broken and problematic back then, and it still is broken and problematic right now. I'm not gonna, dwindle over just why exactly it's the most overpowered perk in the game. As far as I'm concerned, it's not even a debate. It's the most overpowered perk in the game because of how much it does for the survivors and how much it punishes the killer that falls in the trap of Decisive Strike. All of the other good survivor perks, you actually have to use those perks. Decisive Strike, only one survivor needs to have Decisive Strike, and the team, for there to create a shadow of doubt that clouds the mind of the killer, and it's just that seed of doubt. Are there 4 Decisive Strikes in that team? On that team, or only 1? You can't know, and that's what it's so broken. Because sometimes the good players, even the bad players, or the mediocre players, the killers that want to improve, they don't want to get hit by Decisive Strike. They might just leave a survivor on the floor, as I often do, because you fear and you respect the threat of Decisive Strike, even if they don't have it. No other survivor perk has that. No other survivor perk has you play like that. So should you respect Decisive Strike or not? How likely is it that survivors have Decisive Strike? How likely is it that 4 survivors have it? 1, 2, or 3, or none? Now, usually, it's quite easy to know whether or not there's at least 1 Decisive Strike on the survivor team. And that's because, at the start of the game, a survivor is assigned an obsession. So that means that the guy that's the obsession has Decisive Strike. Do the 3 other survivors have it? Don't know. Actually, I've been collecting data to answer that very question. Now, over the past, I'd say 12 months, I've collected 3 sample sizes from 12 months ago, 6 months ago, and I've just collected a recent sample size as I've come back to play the game. All of these games were at rank 1, and what I did is that after each game, I meticulously compiled data regarding how many Decisive Strikes were on a team. And I did that only at rank 1 for about, in total, if you combine all sample sizes, we're looking at about 300 games. Now, the sample size of a year ago, you had about 1.55 Decisive Strikes per game. 6 months ago, it was 1.52 Decisive Strikes per game. And currently, as of this week, over a span of about 80 games, we've had an average of 1.41 Decisive Strike. So we have incredible consistency, guys. Over a span of a year, over 300 games, the likeliness at rank 1 that a survivor that is not the obsession, because that's the question, right? Because if you know that the obsession has Decisive Strike. The question is the guy that's just been unhooked, that it's not the obsession, how likely is it that he has Decisive Strike? As soon as we remove the 1 Decisive Strike from those sample sizes, from those averages, you get the likeliness that the likeliness is that there is a less than a 50% chance that there is any other Decisive Strikes on any of those guys. So there isn't even enough on the most, based on the most recent sample size. There's not even a 50% chance that there is any remaining Decisive Strikes on any of the 3 other survivors. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have, survivor friends. If you see 4 organized people, that's most likely the fact that they have 2, 3, or 4 Decisive Strikes, because that's just what survivor friends is, not rank 1. But if you play with just chill survivors or any survivors, because obviously those sample sizes include the survivor friends and include, you know, duos and include all, you know, includes consoles and PCs and all of that. The remaining fact is that more likely than not, the survivors don't have D-Strike. What I would advise you, as someone that plays every killer at rank 1, and I don't tunnel, I don't do any. Sometimes you do have to tunnel because there's one gen left and you need someone dead if you want to have any chance in the game. But more likely than not, you know, if you're competent, you want to get hooks and you want to have a prolonged game. You want to have a fun experience for the survivors and for yourself. So, if you're the best way to play at rank 1 if you want to improve is to always respect Decisive Strike. Now that might seem completely counterintuitive to what you've been telling us, and that's right, it is, because you should still respect it, because in the event that the survivor that isn't the obsession has Decisive Strike occurs, then you get wrecked, you get massively punished. So you still want to avoid it. What I do and what I advise you guys to do is, unless you're forced to pick up the guy that's just been unhooked, unless you're pressured because there are very few gens left, maybe for whatever reason, unless you feel like you're compelled to have a survivor die right now, just respect it. Remember, guys, when you slug someone because you're not sure if they have Decisive Strike or not, you still get massive value, because when you think about it, there's no difference between a survivor that's AFK and a survivor that's dead and a survivor that's slugged on the ground. They don't work on gens. They're not cleansing totems. They're not opening the gates. They're not doing anything. In fact, they do. The survivors that are slugged do even something that's even better for us than a player that's AFK or dead, because they draw other survivors that are alive, that aren't dead, that aren't injured, that, you know, away from the exit gates, away from the gens, away from cleansing totems. You have them waste their time. And that's at minimum 2 people, because you need a guy, unless they have Unbreakable, which isn't very common. You know, you see it once in a while, but it's not predominantly common. It means that at minimum 2 people are losing the time. There's a guy that's slugged and eating grass like a good herbivore, and there's this dude that comes to help. And, you know, maybe a third guy comes to help too, because they're not on comms, and, and so you create this snowball, this momentum, even if they're on the ground. So even just slugging the guy because you're not sure if they have Decisive Strike, pretty good for you. The guy that's the obsession, just, to make that clear, if he's just been unhooked, just leave him on the ground. Just hit him if you get to, if they're in range. And if you manage to get to them and don't get to a pallet, just hit them and leave them on the floor, because they are the obsession. They most likely have Decisive Strike. So just leave them there. Now, guys, you have the data to back up your choice that more likely than not, and on average, you will benefit from picking up that survivor. Then you will be punished. You'll still be punished once in a while, because yes, you will run into the team that has 2 Decisive Strike, 3 Decisive Strike, 4 Decisive. That happens. Now, for the sake of, you guys' knowledge, I've also compiled in absolute numbers how many times I've faced a team that had 4 Decisive Strikes, 3 Decisive Strikes, 2 Decisive Strikes. And here are the results. The least likely scenario, guys, is a team with 4 Decisive Strikes. It's the least represented sample. It's the most uncommon one. Then, the second most uncommon one was 3 Decisive Strikes. So the most egregious cases of, usually survivor friends at this point, that have 3 or 4 Decisive Strikes, they're the least common. The third least common is 0 Decisive Strike. So that's right in the middle of the pack. It's less uncommon, or it's less common than 1 or 2 Decisive Strikes, but it's more common to have a team that has no Decisive Strike than the teams that have 3 or 4. And then the second most common was 2, and the most common, guys, was 1. It's between 1 and 2, and that's the reason why the average is around 1.5, because it's dragged up and down by the 0s and the 1s, and upwards by the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s. But it's not 2.7, it's not 3.1, it's not 2.2. The average is something like currently 1.41, guys. So just go ahead and pick up that survivors, and you will be rewarded. You will rank up faster. You will win more games like that. But as I said, only do it when you have to. because you're still gonna get wrecked. You still most likely lose games in which you get hit by Decisive Strike. The devs have announced some changes. Hopefully, it just nerf Decisive Strikes and the problems with Decisive Strikes. Because we don't want the survivors to get tunneled, guys. This video is not to help you tunnel. That's not the end. That's not the end goal of this educational video. It's to help you choose to weigh the risks associated with picking up a survivor that's not your obsession. And I don't blame the devs for having set a Decisive Strike in the game. It serves a healthy purpose, not to be tunneled. But the problem is that it does so much more than that. It allows you to gen rush. It allows you to play gimmicky, cheesy things like trying to get the killer to enter in a grab animation, or jump into a locker, or just try to bait the killer into picking them up. It just warps the game so much. I can guarantee you guys, when you're a good player and there are no Decisive Strikes, there are no obsession in the game, it just transforms the game so radically. It's just so much less hassle. You don't have to slug. You can just pick them up, man. If they run into you, if the survivor does a poor rescue attempt, and they don't have borrowed time, and they just unhook right into your face because they're farming their teammate, then you know what? You can just hook that guy right up, and if there are no obsession, means there are no Decisive Strikes. That's a guarantee. So that's all I have for you guys today. I really hope you take this information and it allows you to have better decision making, because that's what it's about. Guys, when you play rank 1, you play versus the best players, you play versus survivor friends. How is it that you can go to that next level? How is it that you can become a master at this game? Now, talking as if this game mattered in any sense, but we're nerds. We're competitive. We wanna hook those survivors, and we wanna beat them. Have a good one, guys.